All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zyori Podcast number 77. This is the first of the live podcasts here we're doing at TI5. I said live, but this is actually an offline podcast just for YouTube. Can't stream on the Wi-Fi here. It sucks ass.
You can get a network cable.
Everyone keeps telling me that, and I keep forgetting. I can't believe I didn't bring an Ethernet cable with me. But we've got Knoxville with us here. You might not recognize him. I didn't recognize him. I'm glad you had the brass to just walk up to the group and say, hey guys, I'm Knoxville. Because most people don't do that. I was bad about that when I was the new guy on the block, just kind of lingering nearby in the corner. You know, hey guys, you know, all...
Hey LD.
Hey LD, big fan. That's kind of what it was like at MLG Columbus when I first met him. But Knoxville's the official stats guy this year, which is what was maybe a surprising change for some. K-Pop Tosis was the stats guy for the last...
2 years.
2 years? 2 years?
3?
I don't know if he started at TI2 or TI. I think it was
TI3.
TI3.
I remember them being interviewed at TI3.
Yeah, right. That was the first one, and then he was at TI4. So we got a new guy this go around, and we got all sorts of stuff to talk about. We'll go broad strokes. We'll talk about Knoxville himself, and we're going to talk about these. What are we calling it now? Is it Statsgate? Is it Biblegate?
Oh, Statsgate.
Statsgate, the perfect
religion.
Perfect name for
neutral.
it. All right, let's start there. That's probably what's on people's minds. I guess we should give a kind of a broad description of what happened. There's probably some people out there that have absolutely no clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So every big event for like the last year or so, myself and a friend of mine, Scant, we make a stats preparation document for the casters. There's just too many games for them to watch, and it's just like a summary of what the teams are going to maybe do or maybe not do, or something special about them, good talking points. Mm-hmm. So for TI5, we did the same thing. And at some stage, some of the talent must have shared it with a player or a team, and other teams found out that one or more teams have it, and they wanted it too. Yep. And drama.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's a pretty good summary. It was one of those things that, since we haven't been doing it this long, you know, like K-Pop Tosis had made some what we called like stat cheat sheets. Yeah. But nothing is in depth like you guys do, where you go through and look at. I guess it's public now, so we can talk about exactly what it looks like. But you know, win rates and hero picks, and the whole point of it is to make talking points for casters, or casters be able to look at this and these are the highlights from DOTA. This paints you a picture of what this team is doing, and now you can talk about it and have numbers to back it up. So it's not really anything. There's no insider information.
Yeah, there's no like private scrim data.
Right.
You know,
it's all derived from DOTA, which is completely public.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a little bit that's from Wikipedia about their recent performance, but everything else is DOTA and raw data.
Yeah. So obviously, it's still a nice thing for teams to have. They can get their hands on it, and it was never really explicitly said, "This is for you. Do not share this with players." It seems like a no-brainer, but I can see how somebody could just not really think that hard about it. Just be like, oh yeah, sure, you know, why not? Look, or they're just talking about one of the stats and it comes up or whatever. But damn, that's
Yeah, and the problem is once one team got it and another team wanted it, it became a bit awkward. So Valve kind of had no decision. No choice. No choice.
Yeah, and the final decision was that all the teams should be able to get a copy of it. So I guess is it publicly posted now? Is it somewhere out there?
Well, so all the teams got it.
Okay, so it was emailed to all of them.
But then some of them leaked it to the public.
Okay.
So it's like Statsgate Part 2.
Oh, I see. So it's on Mega somewhere or something.
Yeah, Gatsu Gamers shared it.
Really?
Yeah, idiots.
How nice of them. Hey, they're just doing journalism, right? Isn't that what they would say?
Yeah.
I don't know what, you don't buy it?
I mean, I don't think that they thought very hard about it. They were like, oh, look at this, it'll get us clicks.
I'm pretty sure they thought hard about the clicks. I don't think they give a shit about the rest of it, to be honest. No offense to Go-To Gamers, but it's one of those things. I mean, I hadn't thought that hard about it, and I was doing both Coddle Guy and I are casting with Purge for the group stages. Yeah. So right after we got the schedule, Purge was like, hey, you guys just want to sit down and talk about the games we're going to cast? So I was like, yeah, sure, let's go sit down. And we were just sitting in the lobby area, and we were talking about complexity when they happened to walk by, and Swindle overheard his name, and he saw that we were looking at tablets that had the stats talk, and he's like, oh, what the hell is that? I was like, oh, this is our caster thing. He was like, oh, where can I get that? I'm like,
you can't.
You can't. You don't have it intentionally. You know, that wasn't by accident. You're not missing something here. And, you know, he was sort of playfully like, oh, you know, I'll trade you, you know, intel for it. And It's just like, I don't think that I should give this to players.
Yeah.
If one of the creators gives me the okay, then I'll go for it. But I'm not making that decision. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's just like a bad situation for like everyone, because the teams who put in money into having an analyst and to like creating their own tools, they're like not getting. Well, they're getting an advantage obviously by having someone they can talk to and is tailor made for their team, but there is like a certain amount of like stuff that other people have now got for free, so it waters down the value of what the analyst does.
Do you know how many teams have a stats person? Or I guess for a lot of teams, if you have a coach, they're kind of a stats person to some degree, but not entirely.
Yeah, I think that the analyst role is not necessarily someone who cares about stats. They don't need to say this lane is won by this hero. They don't need stats to back it up. They have a feeling for it. Right. Yeah, but it does create a way in which you can like make easy comparisons between the teams.
Right. Do you think it actually gives teams that much of an advantage in terms of their players, and they think about the game in a much different way than what it was designed for? It's designed for talking points, not really to be like, okay, this is the secret formula to beat this team. And for some teams, the data is admittedly not really that great. For some of them, they played in the qualifier, and that's
like complexity, for example.
Yeah, complexity is a perfect example.
Like
so
12 games or something before.
Yeah, the meta's shifted a little bit since then. So the data's helpful, but it might not even really be that relevant once they get 1 or 2 games in and see what everybody else is doing.
So the value of the document is twofold. The first part is there is raw data there. So there is data there which shows like where players ward. That can be quite important.
Yes.
What their combos of heroes that they pick the most, so you can predict what they're going to do in a draft. And then the second part is that it kind of also asks questions. So if you're looking through the stats document and you see, hey, this player has almost 30% of his team's farm, and he gets almost like 12% from Ancients, then you're like, wow, that's a good way to shut him down. Kill off his Ancients.
Right.
There was a time when Kiraki was playing carry for Secret, and in an interview or something, Awi 2000 said, this might have been after he moved to EG, but I think it was when he was still with Cloud9, said something like, oh yeah, Kiraki gets like 8.5% of his gold from Ancients. And that's like not a very, very, like it's, the data's there, but it's like not listed like that. So,
right. You have to do some refining to get
you have to do a little bit of work to get there, but the fact that they've done it means that they're thinking about it, they're talking about it, they're caring about it. So, yeah, I guess teams do care about some of the data.
Yeah.
And it asks more and more questions about how they can shut down the enemy.
Right. I mean, there is no doubt a lot of good intel in there. I wonder if it will have what kind of effect it'll have, and of course we can't gauge it because we can't really run a true experiment and see what it would be like if they didn't have it. But I wonder if some teams may read too far into it, or
I don't think so,
or if we'll see it not really have much of an impact at all. I mean, I reckon a lot of teams have a bunch of strats, and most of the boot camps have already happened, so they've already worked out a lot of strategies before this.
I think it's too late for anyone to change, and if anyone does try to change their strategy based on that, then they're idiots.
Yeah,
so.
I think you're right. It's more about the minor tweaks, and that I did overhear some talk about the ward graphs were the big one of just this is just a good kind of go-to of what to look at, because this year players are allowed to have documents in the booth with them, right? Coaches are not allowed in the booth. Are they allowed to have documents?
I haven't read the player rules. They haven't been made public.
I'm not sure. I heard inklings of that. That's always like a topic of discussion. Remember at DAC, coaches were allowed in the booth for the draft, and they were allowed to talk to players. And
then they wanted to have timeouts as well.
Yeah, and the managers were the Western managers were like,
no, we would have brought a coach there.
This is like whoa, this is not the standard. So there's definitely a difference in opinion about what should be allowed in the booths. Like should players be allowed to bring a notebook, or should it be limited to one piece of paper, or should they not be allowed anything at all? I feel like I don't have a strong opinion on it. I don't know.
Yeah, like even when you do exams, some exams are open book. Some of them, like especially the engineering ones, limit you to one piece of paper.
Right,
it must be typed. It must be this size.
Yeah.
It's just a question of like drawing the line somewhere in the sand and sticking to it.
Yeah, I mean, as a stats guy, do you think it would have a profound impact on the way the game is interpreted if it was established that every major tournament, the new set of rules is that each player can have one sheet of paper, or something like that. Do you think it would even make a difference?
I think that there's no real difference like between 1 or 10 pieces of paper. Like the first step is between paper and electronics.
Paper. Oh, paper and electronics.
And then nothing to paper.
I
think electronics is definitely like a no-go.
Tablets, alright, so...
Yeah, what is like the most optimal hero?
They're just on that Dota, just like, no, ban the Bat Rider. That's his third most played. That's definitely a little bit...
Yeah, I don't think...
A little bit fun.
And that also becomes like an arms race in terms of the tools that you have.
Exactly.
But, I mean, papers in some ways can do almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can represent, like, against one team, you can have, like, one book per team, and you can make, like, a decision tree, like, choose your own adventure. Yeah. Oh, they banned Bat Rider, go to page 6, and you go to page 6, and you carry on...
There's all sorts of creative things you could do.
Yeah, you can carry on doing, like, that type of stuff. So I think it's, like, for the most part...
How about this? What if they allowed players to have notes, but they lowered the amount of time you get to draft?
Well, even at the moment, it's quite hard, like, if you wanted to flip through, like, 20 things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they could really, like... If they were interested in doing that, that could be an interesting trade-off. Though that feels like kind of an extreme change to drafting.
I think Dota at the moment, in terms of drafting, and that's it, is, like, fine.
Yeah, I would agree. I think so.
I don't think we need to make changes. I think teams can maybe bring in, like, 5 pages each or something. Like, they could decide on some arbitrary paper limits.
Yeah.
And... just because they think the quality of Dota will go up. But I don't think we're seeing that many outdrafts at the moment. I don't think there's like a lot of terrible mistakes in the draft. Whereas like maybe 2-3 years ago there were.
That's true.
There were games that are like over by the draft.
Yeah, it's crazy to just see how far the strategy has advanced to just like even in pub games, seeing how like on average people buy wards, people buy couriers, people just upgrade the courier at 3 minutes because it's what a good support does. That did not exist a few years ago. That didn't exist 5 years ago. It
still doesn't happen in the South African servers.
Yeah, well, it still doesn't happen in every game, but there's a big difference compared to how it used to be. But you're a bit of an OG Dota player. Yeah, I know you keep referencing, like, anytime there's a discussion about, like, TI5 or TI... Oh, well, how was that game? You're like, I remember. It was Toby casting it.
No, I remember some, like, highlights.
You seem to have a pretty good memory of some of the highlights.
I've played Dota since, like... maybe like 9 years ago or something. Like Dota 1. Oh, wow. Yeah. I was terrible back then. Still terrible now.
Yeah. No, I can empathize with that. So you mentioned the South Africa servers. I think most people can probably tell you have a South African accent. Not too thick, but what's the esports scene over like over in that part of the world?
It's like there's a lot of potential, but... it's kind of like, I think, comparable to Southeast Asia, where there's, like, lots and lots of players, but, like, there's just no structure to, necessarily, like, not enough structure to keep, like, support it all. We have, like, one big league, which has, like, nearly 300 teams in it.
That many?
Yeah.
And is that all South Africa, or are there other countries nearby that also, like, are there other African countries that are into esports?
There is maybe, like, 20 or 30 players in total from Namibia or Zimbabwe.
So it's all South Africa.
Yeah, for a while, before the South African servers, there were a couple of European teams that played in the tournament.
Oh, interesting.
So how that works is, it's kind of like a star ladder in some ways. There's like one leg where you play like a round robin within a group, and then the top couple move up and the bottom couple move down. And there's like a bunch of groups.
Right.
And then after 2 of those seasons, there's a big LAN final in Johannesburg, and there's like last year, the total prize pool across like 5 games was like maybe $150,000.
That's not bad. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty decent.
So you guys have kind of like one big LAN every year. Is it kind of like a DreamHack type thing, or?
So it is like an expo. Like, so there's 1,000-man LAN upstairs.
Okay.
And in the like banquets, it's called like the banquet halls downstairs. There's a big Do Gaming Championships. Like that's the name of it.
Do Gaming?
Yeah, that's the name of.
What is Do Gaming?
Like
D-O?
Yeah. DoGaming.co.za. It's just one of the brands in South Africa. It's like an ISP that's the main ISP, and it's the gaming subsection. It's like
a mini. It's like the esports version of Nike. Instead of just do it, they show do esports.
They probably need to get like Shia LaBeouf to do. Just do it. Just do esports.
That's kind of a cool name though. Like having do in there. Do esports. You know, it's your brand, and you're also it's like join Dota. You know, it's verb based. It's very action. Join Dota now. Kind of a. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So that's one big tournament, and then there's like a bunch of small ones. But we've had a couple of like international successes. Oh, not major, but like the South African Counter-Strike teams, there's like a couple of good ones. Mm-hmm. Bravado Gaming has gone to DreamHack and ESWC Montreal, and Energy Esports went to ESWC. Last year's won the one in Paris. That's pretty cool. And then in the Dota front, we've got like a lot of players that are like very skilled. To get 6k MMR with 200 ping is like... Yeah, that's kind of like the Australian servers in that regard. Yeah. So we've got a couple of players who are like 6k. So is the infrastructure there passable? Is it more like your connection to other parts of the world that's so slow? Yeah. Or is it like SEA where even just the infrastructure for local stuff is also kind of shoddy? It's not that bad local. Like there are ISPs that are bad. There are regions that just don't have good internet. But it's just the speed of light's too slow to get to Europe. Yeah. That's not an easy problem to fix. We haven't figured that one out quite yet. I guess eventually we'll throw a bunch more fiber across the ocean. Yeah, but I mean, like, even the physical distance is like 100, even if, like, speed of light is 100 milliseconds or something. To Luxembourg. Yeah. Like, we'll need quantum computing with that's true, actually. Africa's, you forget how far away South Africa is from, you know, like, that part of Europe or North America or even, you know, like Australia or that part of the world. We also had a Dota team that went to MSI Beat It. Really? And they... What was the name of the team? Bravado Emotion. I don't... Yeah. How long ago was that? Last year. Last year? Huh. It was actually the first stats document Scans and I ever prepared. Because he was on the team, and he left that team to join another team, and then that team qualified for a tournament. Mm-hmm. So we made a stats doc for Join Dota, for Capitalist, and we were like, here's some info on these players you've never ever heard of. So you guys are like a bipartisan group. So you and Scant are real life friends, right? He's also South African. He lives like 500 meters away from me. And are you guys separate from the other stats group, the Standard Deviants, or are you part of that, or are you one of the founders, or is it a? How's that? We're both part of it. I'm one of the the originals. Well, like the Scout group, I think is what I'm going to go by. Standard Deviants Leadership. That's what it is. But I mean, like, the group is very much like self-sustaining, self-regulating. And how many people is it? There's like nearly 30, I think. Oh, wow. The active people, there's like maybe 15 or maybe 20. Wow. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear there's that many people, like stats people, like diehard stats people. I guess that's a range of more amateur folks that are breaking in all the way up to the more experienced folks like yourself. Yeah, I mean, what's nice about the group is it's not just all in-game stats. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of people there like Gorgon, the Wonder Cow, who just writing. There's some people who just do in-game stats. There's some people who are analysts, not necessarily for teams, but they just write analytical articles. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys work with Nahaz as well. He's part of that whole... Yeah, so the like, maybe some of the names that people might recognize, Nahaz, that Phage guy, he's the guy who started it. Mm-hmm. We got Gorgon, the Wonder Cow. We've got Modpacks, yeah. Scant. Who am I forgetting? Probably like lots. Oh, we got Cart. Cart, yeah. Yeah, that. The only other one that I remember that Lurkaderp, yeah. And I can't think of too many others. There's Corrupt Drop Bear. He's an Australian who... I don't know if I know that one. Yeah. It's hard when you're casting, unless you're really paying attention to the lobby. If you're not hosting it and you're not doing the production, you don't even realize who's in the slot. And that's not something that we were privy to at the qualifiers. That's cool though. So, how did you first conceive the Stats Bible idea? Like, what was the inspirational moment of like, dude, you want to just spend a few hours making this awesome document and then just give it to some other people and hope they say thank you? You know, like, what was the inspiration for that? Because you guys have always been very generous with your stats. I remember just seeing a message one day like, hey, these guys want to make a stats Bible for us for the summit. Do we want to do that? It's like, well, fucking yeah, man. Sign us up. That sounds awesome. It was at one of the Star Ladders, and Dandy was a pack that went Midas. Mm-hmm. And it was something that he hadn't done. Like, he started doing that trend like maybe 7 months ago, but he stopped.
and he started again a week and a half before the summer. I mean, before Starlighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to call out here, but it was like one of the BTS guys was like, this is weird. Why is he going? He hasn't done this in months, and he'd just been doing it for a week. And like Twitch chat riots and oh my god, idiot!
It might have been me. Who knows?
No, it wasn't you.
Ah, okay.
No, don't worry, it wasn't you. It was the other Ben.
Ah, okay.
But the fact of the matter is, there's like 400 games a month on average, and like no one can watch all of that.
No.
So
that's the worst when people flame you for not seeing what happened in other games when you were casting another tournament simultaneously. I'm just like, dude. I get that I probably should have known that he got that item like 2 games ago today, but I literally have not had time to watch it yet. Like, cut me some slack, please.
There was something really hilarious. Blaze was casting one day for like 9 hours.
Yeah. And
something had happened like 3 hours ago, like in another game. And he's like, wow, this must be like one of the longest games on patch. And everyone's just like, you idiot. Look, that C9 game is still going on in some places.
That's awful. That's why you're in that bubble of, time kind of stops when the game starts and you just check out of real life.
Anyway, so we decided to do the doc back then, and we're like, our goal is just to help all talent prepare. Because the better they look, the better the scene gets.
And it does it just a service to the community as well, to be able to add credence to what the casters are saying. And I think that's one of the things that Nahaz does so well is these little tiny stats that are so easy to understand that make you go, wow, that's really cool. You know, like the 300th win with this build, or just these very little digestible things, and it adds a lot from an audience perspective. I
mean, a lot of people who are watching esports don't play the game. I wouldn't say like a significant amount. But,
a lot of them are casual players.
But yeah, a lot of them are casual players or new to the professional scene in general, like across all esports. So there's some bridging required to make it kind of seem like a traditional sport. And when you're watching like football or soccer, you always see the like pop-ups at the bottom, possession, and in Dota it's like not as intuitive as who's winning. Like you can be 60 kills ahead, but you can be 5,000 gold.
That was one of the first like statistics-based things that K-pop Toasters ever brought up on one of our shows, was that idea that baseball is one of the perfect sports for stats, because it's just so numbers driven. And you can really analyze how someone's going to perform on a numbers base. But Dota doesn't really have a metric that indicates winning right now, because there's so many concepts that are time based, where for example an anti-mage goes to Battle Fury, you're behind now, but in 30 minutes he's going to be really far ahead. Kills don't necessarily mean that much, because you could be up by 30 kills, but if you haven't taken a single tower and the other team's knocking down your barracks, it doesn't really matter. You don't have anywhere to farm.
And if you're a Spectre with 5,000 gold behind and he has a Radiance. And even like maybe the other way is like, even if you have like a 20,000 gold lead, if you spent that all on 5 Shivas, then
exactly,
like item efficiency becomes so significant.
That's not something that you can put an easy set of metrics on of how efficient are these items. And even if, let's say you have a carry who's 10k gold ahead of everyone else, if he dies and buys back or gets killed by a Necro with an Ags, that's also something you can't quantitatively say or put a number on of how someone's going to execute.
There've been a lot of people trying to kind of work out a number, way of assessing performance of a player. But
like across all the roles and all that, like just God, that sounds like you know that they're searching for the equation that puts together quantum theory with
ground unified.
With general relativity. I feel like that's what this is. Like the formula that puts everybody on the same scale, support, carry, mid, whatever you are, that's the dream.
I mean, if you think about it, there's some things that we'll never be able to quantify, like drafting. Like not necessarily how good or bad a specific draft is, but how bad a player can be, but you still have them as on your team. Like how bad mechanically can they be, but they're still in your team. Like in Counter-Strike 1.6, there were a bunch of in-game leaders whose like actual performance wasn't that good, but the strats that they called were like made up for it. Like there was a guy from Complexity called Trip, and he was like one of the most ultimate like thinkers of the game, but his like raw aim was never as good as anyone else.
Well, PPD's a good example of someone like that to a lesser extent, and that's not to say he's unskilled, but he's not known for his mechanical prowess, compared to someone like Curtis, Owie 2000, who's really known for being able to work the map, farm very efficiently. But PPD's that mastermind. He's the master drafter. He's very adaptable. He's really good at coming up with nuances. He's pioneered some interesting ideas. Like I always think about the Treant Protector. I remember when that was the team that first ban Treant. People were thinking the Boots first Elite Seed. Just holy shit, where did this come from? This is so strong.
And Bane, he's played so much Bane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's done a lot of interesting stuff. I'm pumped to see what they have in store for this event.
Yeah, the thing is, it's very hard to kind of think up a metric that puts him high on the list. Mm-hmm. But there are some that are like that PPD features very high on.
Yeah.
Like in terms of KDA, when you normalize KDA to percentage of team net worth, PPD is the highest. So given the smallest amount of gold, he has the biggest impact in terms of kills and assists.
That's a really fascinating stats comparison. So I really like looking at the percentage of how the gold gets distributed across a team. I think that's one of those stats that if I could have one stat for a team, that's one that I would want if I didn't know much about them.
Teams.
Yeah, it does. You can see so clearly when their carry gets 30% and everyone else is significantly lower. It's all right. They play a lot of 4 protect 1. Then you see other teams like Empire, Silent and Resolution. They have almost
26,
it's like 26
yeah,
somewhere.
26.
They're almost dead even because they play that dual core strategy where the other 3 kind of roam around. You can see if they play a sacrificial 3 that roams a lot. Some teams play just
Navi with Artstyle, who just dies a lot and has very low net worth but gets things done.
And you can see that some teams play really no true 5. Like they'll do a 2 4.5s almost, where the supports completely share farm and they're almost dead even, and that's something that you can really base a lot of analysis on. But comparing that to KDA, man, I missed that page in the stat Bible. That's
no,
really cool.
that's not in.
Yeah, I know. That's a really fascinating.
Some of the stats that we didn't put in were like just so bland for everyone.
Yeah, that's more for specific players. It means a lot. Yeah.
So like S4 and the Haste Rune, we were considering putting the rune distribution for every team now, but we're like, there's no reason to do it. We'd rather just find some of the snippets.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other cool stats that was in there was the distance covered.
Oh yeah.
Where does that? Is that just a number that's logged in the combat log? Like, how do you figure out how far a hero or how much a hero moves in a game?
You look at its position at every frame and you add that up.
So you just have to keep going.
No, the replay parser. That's
okay. So you can just pull that out of the replay very easily. It was Saniko, I think. Yeah. He's the number 1 roamer, most active.
And No Tail's number 2.
Yeah. Those are those stats that you pull out that are like, wow. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Stuff that your average caster or viewer, even someone that knows the game well,
would never say that he's number 1.
Yeah, you can't definitively discern by watching. You could say, well, No Tail roams a lot, but it's so much more powerful to be able to say definitively, this is the guy to look out for. He's going to be moving because he does this the most.
I actually asked the guy who runs that DOTA to add that a while ago. We have maybe 500 emails that we've different threads.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes hard to keep up with what's added, what's not. But that was added a while ago, and I was just looking through the team stuff, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. And I looked at the dates, I'm like, Saniko, that is actually, it sounds right. And I showed it to Nahaz, he's like, I don't know if I trust this data. And then he looked at it, he's like, okay, it is actually right, but it's like...
I was skeptical too. When I first saw that, I was like, I wonder how they figured that out. I didn't realize that it was just kind of parsable like that.
Yeah, and what's really nice, one of the new things that's coming out, which maybe will be done for TI, maybe for the main event, is being able to look at the difference between certain statistics. So if you want to see what's the furthest team Secret has been ahead and gone on to lose, you can see stuff like that.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
One of the things, I remember K-Pop Toasters talked about this like a year and a half ago, was having a normalized creep kill that takes into account
ancients,
and even just siege creeps, that kind of stuff. So it's I forget, he had a whole plan about how you could go about doing it. It made a lot of sense. I guess you just figure out what the you just wait how you have to keep track individually, and it's a client-based thing. I guess it would make replays a little bit bigger.
No, I mean that data is in the replay already.
The data's on there.
When you parse it out, you can work out what was killed and.
It does it there. So you can just figure it out. You could do like a live plugin.
If you want to do it live, then you have to parse the combat log.
But that would be possible. You can parse it through the combat log, and you could make like an overlay that had sort of a live normalized stat thing.
Yeah, you can. But the combat log is like a tricky and very terrible thing to use.
Well, we had our taste of that with the team fight recap that K-Pop Toasters kind of pioneered back in the day, and even when it worked, it was one of those like, all right, baby, come on, one more. Like, it was always a little bit shaky. Things would kind of fail randomly, and every time there was a new patch, something would get changed or something would get messed up, and the upkeep on it was just... It's hard from... If you're on the developer side, it's a lot easier, but when you're on that end of the chain...
And you have to, like, do so many, like, dirty hacks. Like, Dota could also use the combat log for the ultimates at the top. Mm-hmm. Like, when an ultimate goes off, the icon appears for a few seconds there.
Oh.
And I know that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot.
There's, like, a lot of, like, little things that would be so much better if the combat log worked, and you could also, like, query it. So you want to, like, get the game states. Mm-hmm. If you could, like, somehow query your local running game to get the game state. Yeah. There's so many cool tools that people could write.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of there's a long list of things that you could see in Warcraft 3 Dota that you can't see in Dota 2. You know, like Ward's place,
cross skills as well.
Yeah,
like, who fed off them? I mean, I think there's a good reason to not include that in pub games because you're like, I see, you're the one who fed the Bloodseeker.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Oh, you bought no wards, Crystal Man. You're the worst.
Yeah, but there's a whole mess of stats that could be added there. There's still a lot of expansion on that front. So. This is your first TI, as we talked about. K-Pop-Tosis was the first stats guy that was ever invited. Were you just completely...
After Bruno.
Oh, well, okay, after Bruno. I guess he was the original. I mean, when I always... People have corrected me for that multiple times. When I say stats guy, I use that as slang for in-game stats, not someone who does statistics-based analysis. Because there are a lot of people that do that aren't branded as a stats man.
Yeah,
you know?
Most of the analysts are like...
Exactly, but they wouldn't say, and Bruno was just one of the first guys to really brand himself that way. So well played, Bruno. Very smart indeed.
Statsman Bruno.
But was it even a possibility in your mind that you'd be invited to this TI? Were you just assuming, okay, K-Pop-Tosis is the stats guy, he'll be invited again? Did you think it was maybe 50-50? Were you hopeful? Were you just, when you guys saw that added by Ice Frog on Skype, were you just,
I didn't get invited by Ice Frog. I got invited by Bruno.
Oh, and my.
And Ice Frog added me on Skype later, so...
Oh, well...
I didn't get the...
Everybody I asked that question to is just like, I had that moment when you see the little symbol, you're like, oh my god, I think that might be the real Ice Frog.
Yeah, the first thing I did was ask Toby, is this the real Ice Frog? And I linked the Skype name, because I was like, this is probably a scam.
Everybody thinks that first, and then, oh shit, this is legit.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, remember that we didn't know that the talent would be cut so much. Mm-hmm. So I expected it to be like 3 statsmen.
So you thought it would be kind of like TI4 and then they might even add a few more people
to
expand the stats team or what else?
So what I thought it would be Nahaz, K-pop, and maybe one more person or 2 more people. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was like 50-50 on that happening. And then, when I got invited, I was like, yes! And even then, I still didn't know that K-pop hadn't been invited.
Right.
Because I was like invited, and I was like, okay, cool, I definitely can come.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that K-pop wasn't going to come. So I was like, yeah.
And you never really know until you basically leave for the event, and he never gets invited. The way they kind of stagger out the announcements, you don't know if maybe I was just the first one, maybe he was invited, but just hasn't said anything publicly yet.
K-pop also did say in an interview that he'd love to come to TI as a spectator. So I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's their... I guess as an in-game stats person, you do actually get to watch the games. But I know, and Nooksy said that when I talked to her. I did an interview with her at TI4 because I was here for press, and she said, at TI3, I came as official, like I was invited to do the workshop. I did all these workshops about the workshop, seminars and stuff, and she said it was really fun, but she didn't get to watch any of the games. And it's like, well, I came to this awesome Dota tournament, and I left feeling like I didn't really get to watch any Dota.
And had to stand outside, like, autographing people with the scanner.
So she was like, this year, I paid my own way. I'm here as purely a spectator. I just want to absorb some fucking awesome Dota.
This year?
Well, that's what she was doing at TI4.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what she's doing this year.
They're definitely coming.
They're definitely coming. I would imagine it's probably...
They're only coming on the 2nd.
Yeah, I think it's like last year where they're just coming to do their own thing, hang out. And of course, they'll do fan service and that stuff, but it's a whole different thing. And I can empathize, man. TI4, I was running around doing interviews through most of the games. Shooting content. It's like, all right, we got to pump out 5 videos today, guys. I don't have time to watch the games.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nice, like, get to watch all the games, like, inherently. But what's nice is sitting at home and being able to say, I want to watch this game here on stream A.
I want to have a beer while I'm watching this game.
Yeah, probably could do that.
On the clock. I'm sure that'll be a great first impression. Ice Frog will walk behind you incognito. You won't even know it's him.
He'll just put his hands on my shoulders. How you doing?
Make that mental note. Oh, having a beer, are we? Okay. All right.
Why does Iceberg have a British accent?
I have no idea. That was just my. That was my like sneaky, suspicious like few words. Just like just just kind of mumbling in the background. That was my low profile voice. Oh God. Yeah, it was. We were all a little bit surprised, but to see that Brian wasn't invited, or K-pop Tosis, his name's Brian. There's two Brians for
Brian with the Y.
Exactly. Brian with the Y is K-pop Tosis. Brian with the I is the Phage guy. So Brian is actually a bit of an ambiguous term here, but we were surprised, and then we kind of worked it out, and you're like, well, you have been doing a lot more production stuff. You've moved into an area that has helped the company a lot more. You've enjoyed it. It's expanded your skill set, but the trade-off has been you haven't been doing in-game stats, and he thought about it, it's like, you're right, I haven't been doing many in-game stats, and then we thought about how many stats Bibles have they actually made for us, Knoxville is pretty goddamn deserving when you think about how many numbers he crunches, and like it kind of made sense once we sat down and thought about it and got over the...
I was sad that Scant didn't come as well, because, it's pretty scary, like, traveling overseas, 23 hours flying.
And this is your first time in America, right?
Yeah.
So, have you traveled much outside of this? Have you at least been to Europe and all around? Or?
I've been to London, and I've been to Hong Kong and China.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool.
But yeah, this is the first time I've been to a place where you actually have to stop and wait for a pedestrian light to cross the road.
Oh,
this is the first place.
They're serious about it. That's not everywhere in America. In New York, people just run across the road. But here, everybody's really serious about crosswalks. I noticed it too, actually. I was about to jaywalk, and it's like, all right, everyone else is just standing there waiting. I don't want to be that one guy that's running across the street. Felt weird about it. But you've had some troubles with the airline. I've heard rumors that Delta has not been your best friend.
I just got my bag now.
You did?
Literally today.
Oh, congratulations.
So like 3 days later.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I saw you're a big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. First shirt off the rack. Just give me some fucking clean clothes.
Just like,
God, that's an awful
Target.com, guys.
Yeah.
Sponsoring this podcast. Just kidding.
Oh, God. No, that's awful, man. But it is scary. I remember the first time I traveled to Europe by myself, and I was just so nervous.
Or not?
It was sort of 50-50. When I graduated from university, well, it was before I graduated, but I said I wanted to travel somewhere. I wanted to go backpacking in Europe, to use a cliche term. And I planned the trip around a DreamHack summer. I had two friends that I went to high school with they graduated the same time I did, and they were doing a semester abroad in Paris together. They both had studied and did all this stuff. So I met up with one of them in Stockholm. We took a bus down to Jönköping, stayed at DreamHack. My sister came to visit. We stayed with some of our Swedish friends, and then we flew down to Amsterdam, stayed there for a day, took a bus to Paris, and then stayed there for like a week or so.
Which DreamHack was it? Was there Dota 2 out at the time?
I don't think so. I've been to a couple DreamHacks. That was the first one I'd ever been to, and I think it was like summer 2011 because I casted DreamHack summer 2012 for Heroes of Newerth.
Okay.
And then I went to winter 2012 just like on my own accord as kind of like press or whatever, just kind of hanging out. So it wasn't specifically for Dota, but I did I made the trip revolve around something esports related.
Yeah.
So was Dota there in 2011? I don't think so. No, that was...
I know that I got a beta key in...
That DreamHack was before TI was announced. So Dota 2 was still in closed beta.
Yeah, I mean, the teams only got it like Na'Vi got their keys to Dota 2 3 weeks before TI1.
Right.
And the Chinese got it 2 weeks before.
Yeah, so it was probably an alpha at that point or something. So
and then it was about just after TI2 when they made it open, right? Just before TI2.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm forgetting the timeline now.
Yeah, I think I got my key around
because when it became
2011
when it became open was a weird. Like you mean just open that like you could buy keys. Or because remember there was that point where you could win keys through things, like websites and stuff.
So it started off closed, like 100% closed. Then like a couple more teams started getting it, and they like started ramping up.
Right.
And then there were like a bunch of competitions, and the only way you could get it was through like Gustu Gamers,
community sites doing all sorts of random shit. Right.
My friend Wazmac was like the first person to get it in South Africa. Doing the Techies Challenge. That Gustu Gamers had a competition. Most last hits with Techies. No items, no stats, no spells. Most last hits at like 12 minutes or something. He was tied second.
That's a good idea for a giveaway company. The only one that I applied for was like you had to take a picture of yourself.
That was the Play Dota forums.
Yeah, that was awful. I hate that picture is still all over the internet. People use it sometimes.
My friend got Vicky, I think, that way as well.
Yeah, I did not win. And looking back at the picture, I'm like, I'm not surprised I didn't win. That shit was awful. I spent way too much time taking a really shit picture. I put a bunch of candles on top of some cardboard, and I was like, fire! It's going to be awesome. And I wrote in a little sign, Dota 2 lights my fire. But the candles were too tiny, so it just looked like me sitting there next to a couple of tiny flames. It was mega fail, dude. It was 2011. Come on, give me some slack.
That was before the internet was created.
Yeah, just about that. I guess I was still new with the internet. So yeah, crazy. How have you been liking Seattle so far? Is it everything you hoped for and more aside from losing your bag? Wild.
Pretty jet lagged still.
Really?
Yeah, but I think last night didn't help very much. Like we went and had a players' dinner. It was a very quiet affair, like very reserved and.
It was really cool. I mean, the last TI I was at the after party, but I didn't go to the players' dinner. I wasn't even here for it.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It exceeded my expectations, and I honestly had pretty high expectations. I expect everything for this event to be fucking awesome.
Dead Mouse performing? ? Yeah. That's what everyone on Reddit's saying.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know if I want to buy into the hive mind, but with the little announcer or the music pack, I don't know.
What is it? Is it a mega kill pack?
Or it's a respawn, or it's a death thing. I haven't bought it yet. I actually don't know exactly.
$7.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm probably gonna buy it. Fuck it. I'm honestly in that just like it's TI. Anything that looks fun or interesting or Dota related, let's do it. Fuck it. This is actually like YOLO mindset. I'm YOLOing on Dota. How much did you spend at the secret shop?
I haven't pre-ordered yet.
How much are you planning on spending at the secret shop?
Quite a bit. I don't know, like.
I spent like $400.
Okay, yeah, maybe about the same.
Okay, yeah, I bought.
Did you pre-order?
Clothes. I did pre-order.
When did you pre-order?
When did I submit the order?
Yeah.
Like last week.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
I think you can still pre-order for like the next couple of days.
Something like that. It closes soon though. It's either today or tomorrow. I think is the cutoff.
Oh, really?
I think so. It might be tomorrow.
Damn it.
I've forgotten. Someone told me. I was like, I already pre-ordered. I don't care about that knowledge.
But we might get a little sneaky.
Yeah, I think we get early access anyway, although I fucked up because I took the first slot to pick it up. So July 31st, between 8 and 1, I have to go pick it up. Yeah. I don't think there's a shuttle over there. I have to like take an Uber over to pick up my stuff. I should have just done it at a time. I was thinking, I better be first. I got to go to the first time slot. But then I realized it's all early access anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's early access. Otherwise, I'm screwed.
I heard rumors that there are. I think there should be. So that last year the line was absurd.
Yeah, so Action Slacks filmed like a 24-hour documentary, pretty much, and
it's really good for getting content though. If you want to do fan interaction stuff, when people are in line, they are really eager to talk to you because they have literally nothing to do. It's not bad.
It's almost as bad as like queuing for like an autograph or something, and like. You're like 100 to go, and then the celebrity goes away.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's the worst. I was in charge of the viewing party for the Summit 1.
Yeah. And
that was a concept that I had not thought of because we had a lot of players come and do signatures, and I think.
Where was the viewer part? Was it?
It was in
downtown.
Yeah, it was like it was in a bar that was like 5 minutes from the house. So it was in the Inland Empire. It was the venue could hold like 100 people or so. It wasn't.
Did you get 100 people?
It wasn't tiny. Oh yeah, it was packed. That one was really packed. We partnered up with SoCal Esports. They do viewing parties in that area, so they advertised the fuck out of it. And we showed up like to open up the place, and there were already people lined up at like 10 in the morning. It was pretty wild. So it was like towards the end of the night, and we're kind of wrapping up, and players want to get out of there, want to go eat, and
there's still
a queue, and I kind of just said, all right, guys, at this point, we're done. Sorry, the rest of you. I thought people were going to start throwing punches. They were really mad. They were like, I've been waiting here for 30 minutes. You should have told me that a while ago. The line was going to be cut off. And I'm like,
no matter what time you said it, someone else before that would have been like...
It's true. Somebody would have been mad. Like, it sucks to be at the cutoff, but at least, like, if you think about it, 30 minutes ahead of time, like, all right, we got to start to wind down soon. Yeah. We should tell people, like, hey, this is, I felt really bad because when the guy was yelling at me, I was thinking, you know what? You're right. I should have thought about this, and I didn't.
Sorry, man.
I don't have anything to say to you other than, my bad. Better luck next time. I had no real... I felt like a dick. So There is an art to that live event shit, you know?
Sometimes people just get mad over...
Yeah, you live in your
life. I mean, it's like an autograph, right? Your life doesn't depend on it.
That's a fair point. You know, downstairs, were you down there earlier? I think you might have... When that lady was going crazy, the lady was recording it.
About creepers. The
recording got ruined. The idiot doesn't know how to use his phone. He was on picture mode or some shit the entire time, so he missed it. I was so upset because this lady... She's one of the staffers, and she was clearing our plates, and we were talking about like creepers and creeping people out. And she's just like, you want to creep people out. This is what
I'll tell you how to creep people out.
I've got a plan. And we're like, okay. And usually staff are like, they don't want to be on camera. And Ben was like clearly filming. You know, he's holding his phone up like this.
Well, he wasn't. Maybe she was really mad and she realized, the idiot's on picture mode.
All right, this guy's hammered already. He's just like looking at everyone taking pictures. And she's like talking to the camera. She's just like, you get in a car, you fill it up with people, you roll down the windows, and you just drive slowly by, and you just maniacally laugh at people. You just roll down the windows, ah! And she said, people get really mad because they think you're laughing at them. And when you keep laughing, when they get mad, they just get more mad. And they threaten to hit us. And I was like, wow, you're really passionate about creeping people out.
She's like the type of person like, I've got this really good friend who has that STD you're talking about. You're just like...
Surely, yeah. She was really nice, but it was just so out of nowhere. Like, you know, I never really would have thought of that. Just drive around laughing at people.
Yeah, just wind down your windows and laugh at them.
Sounds like some good old-fashioned harmless fun. I know what I'm doing after dinner. Fuck dessert.
We don't even need to get a car. We'll just Uber.
Hire an Uber, just like...
Uber guy's like, where are you going? Nah, just go down the road and drive slowly.
Yeah, just keep going in circles, 10 miles an hour. We're going to laugh a lot. It's going to be fun. Buckle your seatbelts. Oh my god, just Seattle things. Have you toured around at all? Did you see the prized gum wall?
I have not.
Dude, you got to go to Pike Place. You got to check it out.
My expedition did take me to the Target, which is like 4 blocks away.
Yep. Pike Place it's like 4 blocks towards wherever the closest water is.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Okay, it's like...
I saw that there's like a big Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it's right... If you're looking at the Ferris wheel, it's to the right of it. And
okay.
It's just this long shop, and there's all these fish marts. And they do this weird thing where they throw, like, one of the guys that works there will go into the audience, and they'll start yelling at each other, then they throw a big fish into the audience. And the guy catches it and says something, and he throws it back. And they do it a couple times, and it's like a tourist thing that everybody knows about, apparently, because there's a crowd of people, they're just waiting to see the fish get thrown, and then they throw the fish around, everybody goes crazy, they start clapping, and everybody lines up to buy fish.
Just Seattle thing.
It's the weirdest, it's kind of cool, but it's really weird. And there they have the gum wall. It's this alleyway where everybody puts their gum there, and... If you walk through it, and it's really gross, and there's like 30 people just standing there like, cool, whoa, gum wall, hey, all right, selfies.
Oh.
I walked through it,
I don't see the appeal to that.
I cringed hard. Ben and I, Merlini and I were walking to Starbucks earlier, and there's like a parade going on today.
Yeah, it's like 60,000 people or something.
Yeah, it's like the Torchlight Parade. It starts at 6 in half an hour. There were people camped out 2.5 hours ago, securing their spot for the parade when we were walking to Starbucks, and we stopped.
Does it come past close yet?
Oh yeah, it's like right on the corner, like half a block. You can see where it walks by. You should go check it out. So we're walking by, and we see people setting up, and there's this young girl. We're asking her what's going on. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's the Torchlight thing." We're like, "Well, what's it? What's the deal?" She said, "Oh, it's just about sea life and sea creatures." And we had walked by a restaurant and saw one of the waiters was wearing a pirate outfit. It's like, what the fuck is going on with that? This place isn't pirate themed. She was like, "No, they just celebrate sea creatures and nautical themed stuff." It's like. So you just have a big, massive parade to celebrate the ocean and pirates. Sounds cool. I was like, is it wild? Are there going to be like drunk people in the street? She's like, oh yeah, it gets crazy. I'm like, all right, well, I know what we're doing the night before the play-in starts.
After last night, I just need to make sure tonight is
exactly.
I got Dagon 10 last night by Cinder, and he just started...
God.
Wait, before there's any ambiguity, Dagons were the one of the shots that they had.
Vodka and Tabasco.
Yeah.
That was the one drink I didn't try. That did not sound appealing to me at all.
I didn't like the Keeper of the Light that much.
I liked
everything else.
I'm not I don't really like cream-based drinks that much, but I did like it. I liked the Tango the best. I think that was my favorite. The BKB was a little sweet for my taste. It tasted good, but it was just a little too much sugar. Yeah,
to me, the Keeper of the Light was like was kind of like a White Russian and a mojito mixed.
Yeah, it was exactly. That's like actually. I didn't think of that, but you're right. It was a weird combination of flavors.
It was nice, but I don't think I could have more than one of it, or like even halfway through, you're like,
exactly,
this was good. I think I should stop.
That's
now.
the cream factor. I don't like creamy drinks that much, but yeah. So things are gonna get pretty wild here. So the guy was telling us all about how the gum wall started. Apparently, there's like a comedy club, and people would line up, and he said people would just kind of put their gum there because they were lining up, and you couldn't take it into the club. They had some rule about no gum or something. Like, okay, cool. And he's like, and then it just became kind of a thing. And he said the last 2 years, it's been advertised a lot on National Geographic and all sorts of other travel places. So now it's become a thing. And he said the thing's doubled. It's been there for like 30 years or some shit. He said it's doubled in size in the last 2 years. So like, if you come back like 3 TIs from now, it's just going to be the gum alley. Fuck the gum wall. It's like the gum fortress.
You're not going to be able to get through the alley because there's just going to be gum.
The wall's slowly...
You're going to have to go sideways through.
Oh my... If you Google pictures of it, if you just Google Gumwall Seattle, it's nasty. There's people licking it and hugging it and like just leaning on it. I'm like, I walked through it. Just I guess
it's fun if it like rain comes and
it's
still pretty miffed though.
I just don't get it. It's grody. It's not my thing, but it's cool. Seattle's a fun place. It's always an interesting day.
It seems like a lot of cool things to do within walking distance. You know, the gap between groups and the main events is like 3 days. Want to go like meander a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, Seattle's known for really good food. So we get free food from Valve, but if you don't mind opening your wallet, this is like the city that's known for top tier cuisine. The seafood, like that seafood market.
I don't eat seafood, so I've lost.
Are you allergic or just not a fan? Oh,
shellfish and normal fish.
Bugger. That's unfortunate. This is the land of... Dude, they had shrimp they were $40 a pound. They were the biggest fucking shrimp I ever seen. I swear, a pound of them, you probably get like 2. They were just like... They were hamburgers of shrimps.
Okay.
It was insane.
Yeah, South Africa is actually really good for seafood as well.
I believe it. You guys are a peninsula, man. You're surrounded by water.
Yeah, but it's like... Yeah, I guess a lot of people, foreigners come and they all go to the Cape Town fish markets and they all go...
Dude,
I don't like the smell.
I love seafood. It's one of my absolute favorites. I love the smell of fish in the morning.
Oh. I can't think of anything worse.
Oh, boy. So, all right. We're getting towards the tail end here. Main event. What are you looking forward to? You're going to be in your cave doing stats the entire time.
Well,
that's what you have
opposite.
To look forward
I'm not in the cave. Everyone else is in their caves.
Oh, are you perched up or something?
Everyone else is in like the pods, and I'm outside the pod in the open air. Well, not the open air, but...
Oh, congratulations.
In the actual room.
Are you ready to be interviewed by Casey? I know you said it's not happening. I know it's happening. No. It's 100% happening.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah.
TBD.
TBR. Yeah, I think that the groups are going to be like very, very exciting. Like even the shit games are going to be good. Like even the shitter games are going to be good. There's so much money on the line that I think what we might see is some teams kind of give up at some stage or like just stop caring because they know that they can, like, if you go into the losers brackets, you win one game and you get $100,000.
Yep.
But if you lose, you still get $50,000. So I think that like they realize that they double their money kind of every win or more. Yeah,
pretty much. That's an interesting way to look at it.
So I think one best of one, like the teams that are at the bottom are going to like hold on to a few strats to go into the bracket of justice.
Definitely.
But I think that we're also going to see like upsets at the top. Like I've put Secret at number 1, but EG could easily be there. Vici could be there.
I think we're going to see some wild shit. I think this is going to be a good tournament for an array of reasons. One, the meta for TI4 was disappointing, so the general quality of games and the way they're played right now, I think will lead to some very entertaining Dota. I think the game's in a good balanced state where I'd say like 90% of the heroes are pretty viable to be picked, at least in some niche strat. Like a Dragon Knight, for example, it's not super strong, but if you want to do a push strat, he can work. He's a
Chain Dragon Knights was that C9 strat that they used against EG when they wrecked him at the summit.
Yeah.
And then they got counter-wrecked.
Yeah, so I think there will be some, like I've heard inklings. This is the craziest thing I've heard somebody rumor mill about strat-wise is Aghanim's Refresher Luna with a Bloodseeker on the team. So you buff up the damage that the ult does. You cast it on him.
Okay, so Cloud9 told you this.
It actually was not Cloud9. I won't say who it was, but it was not Cloud9. So you have 15 choices
That's
left.
like envy level.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. And I was thinking about it. Well, Bloodseeker, he just wants to do damage to people, and then he gets the movement speed, so you can't run away from it. Holy shit, he just runs past the creeps to the back line.
And you rupture someone and they can't run. But if they don't, yeah.
And the double Eclipse, it's like, you always think of Luna as a right-clicking hard carry, but the Aghanims on her is actually pretty strong. If you're like farming well and you can get Aghs Refresher at a decent timing, like...
I think Loda might have done that once or two. Not the Refresher, but the Aghs.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen it in 1 or 2 games I've cast, but not many.
Like that super common. But I think Loda's done it once. I remember watching it, I was like, wow.
Yeah, but even just hearing people theory craft about that kind of stuff, that makes me excited.
Look, it's a tournament for $17 million. People are going to come out with next level shit. It's either going to be next level shit, or it's going to be next level good shit.
Either way, it's going to be entertaining.
It's going to be next level.
Yeah, and the money helps, but it's also that like we're at the point now where teams are really understanding the importance of like boot camping, what it means to practice. You know, there was this idea maybe like 2, 3, especially in the Han days, of just, if we just play together, we'll get better. Oh, we're 5 dudes in a team house.
Oh, let's play pubs.
We're gonna play Dota all day. We're gonna we're gonna bond. You know, it's like, well, that's not what practicing is. Like that helps. You know, playing pubs is good, but that's not a practice regimen. You know, that's not really a boot camp. And some teams, I think now it seems like common. Like if you're a serious team, you're gonna boot camp for an event like this. 2 or 3 TIs ago, not every team boot camped. You know, every team practices, but not every team does that same, we're on LAN, we're going to prioritize this.
The money wasn't there to support that.
Exactly. So things have just evolved to a point now where teams have the resources to really up their game. And even these, you look at the wildcard teams, I think they look decently strong.
CEDIC could top 10.
Yeah.
Top 8.
I think whoever wins the wildcard, I don't think they are just an obvious low seed. I think they'll be middle of the pack.
Yeah, Liquid did that last year.
Exactly.
Where they shot up.
Exactly.
I don't think Vega will do that well against the Chinese teams, and that's like quite a important thing.
Yeah. Vega's an odd team. Those CIS teams are kind of hard to evaluate because when they win, they play that aggressive style that makes it look so one-sided. And when they lose, it's kind of the similar thing where their strat didn't work, or they kind of... When they're good, and when they're bad. So, how good are they really? Like, how do they average?
I just hope that we have like a Goldilocks patch. You know, like
a Goldilocks patch.
The games are not too short, they're not too long. You know, they're just right. They're in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to see 90. Like, we don't want to see every game 90 minutes.
And we don't want the Summit 3.
And we don't want the Summit 3 day 1.
That was one of the most ridiculous things I've experienced in a live tournament.
Yeah, and you guys were like, okay.
We were dumbfounded.
You were like, we need to put on content, and you didn't have those.
Every other tournament, the problem was, okay, we need to make this go faster. We need to be more efficient switching games. Like, it was always more about efficiency, and that one was that perfect storm of, we were super efficient with the SSDs. We were like, okay, we have a stopwatch. Like, you get 10 minutes in between games, 25 minutes in between series. We are fucking serious. We've got admins. We've got a timer. You will be there. You will be losing drafting time. So teams were like really on point with the schedule, and they were the fastest series possible. All 2-0s, all like 15, 20-minute games.
When was the first 2-1? Was it like the EG C9 day 2? The second series, like the one where
it was either late on day 2 or in day 3. But
I think it was EG C9 the day 2 to decide who was second in that group.
That sounds vaguely right. God, that stuff is a blur. When you're running the event as well, you catch the highlights, but my God, that was a crazy string of events for us because we moved all our furniture out for the summit. We went to Star Ladder, came back, had like 7 days to work on the summit stuff, then went to Red Bull there for 7 days. We come back and our guests are already arriving for the summit. So it was just like ping, 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 ping.
I was doing stats for that, and I had to take some leave from work.
Yeah.
And South African time is GMT +2. Seattle is like GMT -7.
Yeah, I think so. That's about right.
So that's 9-hour shift. So I got home from work that day, and I like had a 6-pack of Red Bull there, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. But I ended up going to bed at like 1 a.m. or something because of the games being so short. I was like,
we were just like, we always have a little bit of filler content back up. We're like, holy shit, how are we gonna fill half of a day?
The score, esports. But yeah, Reddit's amused me a huge amounts at that period of time.
Well,
beyond the sellouts.
Oh yeah, that was.
And your comeback, the comeback that you guys put on, just.
You like that? You like the Wayne's World? That was when we were coming up with the idea. I was like, guys, even if we shoot this and it's a total piece of shit, we don't want to post it. Oh, even if like we decide we don't want to, we need to channel this negative energy somewhere. It was the best group activity to constructively channel all of that frustration about Reddit, because we took a very hands-off policy. We didn't want to get into it, like start commenting on things, and it just helped everybody forget about it. It was a good way to kind of poke fun at them, and it was constructive, and it was a lot of fun to film that.
Dakota was pretty hilarious.
Oh my god, his Garth was on point, especially the end. I'll take that bet. That shit was so fucking ace. Oh man, our camera guys really loved putting that together too as well. And of course, it was in the evening. In the opening scene when I'm drinking, you notice that the cup is only that was a pretty decent whiskey Coke, and it took me quite a few takes to get to the point where we were actually going to roll
Take
in.
7, you're just lying on the floor.
Yep, we're just like, all right, take 2. I'm like, yep, I should probably slow down on this a little bit. Every take is getting a little bit rocky, but no, that was really a lot of fun. Reddit is an interesting place, and it's weird once you become an insider and you know what's going on, and you can't say anything about it, and it's kind of hard at first, and you're like, I want to clue you guys in, but I just can't. It's contract-based information. I signed an NDA for this. Sorry, but you're so fucking confused. I don't know where to start.
I think that what's the best part about Reddit is you read a new thread that's just gone up before karma is shown on the side, and you just see like a couple of usernames, and you're like, oh, these idiots are here, and you read what they have to say, and you're like, no, you are so dumb. Like, is your only goal in life to lose karma? Like, they just sit there and they just write out.
Some people just want to see the world burn, man. They make a new account every week. They don't give a fuck about karma.
No, but it's the same guys who come back and back and back.
There are some people that are really into it. I don't know. I don't have a good explanation for it. Some of them are 4chaners that come over to Reddit. Some people are just, it's that veil of anonymity, man. That's how they get their jollies, trying to get a rise out of people.
Remember when there was the rioting because the Twitch you could set your channel to be Facebook people only? Or was it MLG? It was either Twitch or MLG, one of the two.
Probably that sounds like an MLG thing.
I think there was a Twitch. I think there was a Twitch thing as well that only registered users could come on.
I know the thing with MLG is their chat was Twitter based for a while. Like you had, if you wanted to do anything, you had to like connect your Twitter.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason they do a Facebook thing, but
the writing about that was great. Like, no, we want to be anonymous and say what we want and put up Hitler as key art.
Yeah, they're very passionate about strange things. I've found some stuff is, but they do good work. Sometimes they bring good issues to light.
What do you think about the Steam broadcasting though? Steam, YouTube, Twitch.
Well, it's the Steam broadcasting one is kind of interesting. I feel like for Valve, it's like we have the ability to do something like this relative to everything we're doing. It's not a huge cost, and I see it as like free R&D for them almost. Not free, but
integrated stats at the bottom.
Yeah, like
better integration.
Now is the time when they can kind of experiment with it when they're not a big player and work out the kinks. And then a few years from now, it's like, well, with Twitch and YouTube and all these others are fighting over, viewer base. They know that, hey, we've got Steam. We've got over 10 million people playing Dota every month. We can just blast messages out through the client and push people to our
But they just have to
streaming platform.
It's so easy to stream as well. You just press
yeah,
one shortcut and you're streaming. You have to worry about stream keys and delay. And
that too. I've tested it a little bit, and it's pretty cool. It started streaming my second monitor automatically, which I was not particularly keen on. I was like, oh, nice. Glad that was one of my friendly Skype conversations that was popped up there. That's good. But other than that, it's pretty cool. The whole thing is such an interesting topic to delve into with theory crafting where streaming is going to go next, if it goes to TV, if will Twitch continue to be the big player, is the YouTube player just going to be able to win the arms race in terms of cost structure because their algorithms are more efficient, they're using HTML5, they're getting away from Flash, they have some technological edge. I've been told that one of the issues for Twitch is that they own a lot of their infrastructure rather than renting it, which is more cost effective in the long term, but less adaptable in the long term. So they're stuck with a lot of now antiquated architecture that's hard to phase out. Whereas a lot of the sites coming out, all this is conjecture. I don't know if any of that is true. I mean, I'm not a computer engineering guy to really know exactly how all that works, but the rumor mill, man, that's all I can go off of.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best is still when there was some sort of talk that Neil gave. And it was like, when the Dota 2 patch goes live, it uses 3% of the world's bandwidth for that burst.
Holy shit.
Like, if they can do that, they can stream video.
That's crazy. You know, somebody told me, like, 2 or 3 years ago. Do you remember when MLG picked up League of Legends and it was
And
like,
it dropped Dota 2.
Yeah, that's when they dropped. That was it. You're right. They dropped Dota 2 and picked up League of Legends. I went to one of the early MLGs that it was either the first or second that had League of Legends, and at the time
It was after Columbus, right? Was it before or after Columbus?
I'm trying to think. I think it was. Fuck. I've been to so many MLGs. I can't remember. It might have been in 2012.
Okay.
They might have done some like a preliminary thing with League of Legends. Anyway, it was somewhere around there, like late 2012, early 2013, and a guy that I know he was getting involved with League stuff. You know, he's like, we were both had done StarCraft. I was starting to do Han, and he was trying to tell me like, no, dude, League is the net. It's going to be way bigger than everything else. And he pulled out this crazy stat that I was never able to verify, and he said that League of Legends, if you were to look right now, League of Legends would have more people logged on to their game than Steam has people logged on to every game on Steam. Like, of everybody that's playing a game through Steam, regardless of what the game is.
Well, you can't verify that. But so there is a number, like, in a LoL client that says how many people, like, active users or something.
Right.
But
I think it's like, that's like the Dota number, where that's just how many people logged in this month kind
unique
of a deal.
People
it's just a unique kind of tracker, so it's not very...
it's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, well, this guy, he claimed like he had a friend at Riot who told him the numbers or whatever.
We all have friends at Riot.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I'm like, well, you sound a little biased. If that's true, that sounded unbelievable to me. I mean, at that time, maybe League was that big. I mean, I know the Chinese player base is huge for League, and I have no idea how many... A lot of Chinese people play League, and also South Korea. There's a lot of Asians that play League, so I don't know. I have no idea, but that was weird for me. I made the right choice. I didn't.
You didn't go to the dark side.
I'm not a Kool-Aid guy. That's my big problem. You know, I can't do the. S2 offered me a job after I graduated to be the official codecaster, and I read the contract, and there's all this stuff like, you know, you always have to, you know, say positive things about S2 and all this stuff, and I was just like, you know, I don't want to say bad things about the company that I work for, but I don't want to be just a talking head that's always like, this is the greatest, biggest tournament that Heroes of North has ever seen. It's like, well, that's just not true. You know, I kind of pride myself on being kind of honest and having integrity and not being just you know,
voice box for S2.
Yeah, I don't want to be just a marketing platform. I want to be a personality. Like, I look at what Total Biscuit does as the dream. You know, he has high integrity. He's regarded as this honest guy that's not afraid to speak his opinion. I'd much rather have that and have some people that are, you know, that always attracts haters because you have to be polarizing, than be this super PR friendly, like, you know, I hate to call him out, but kind of like what MilkFat does. You know, the guy's just this positive PR face for the company. It's like, well, that's cool. I bet it's a fun job relative to most other jobs, but I don't want to do that. That does not sound like fun to me. I can't do it. I would fuck it up.
Richard Lewis is still like one of the best that, you know, he doesn't give shits and he just writes what he wants.
He does write what he wants.
But Reddit banned him.
Sometimes he's a little far-fetched. I actually like Richard Lewis. I've never met him. I like his work.
I don't think I've ever seen anything he's written that's like turned out to be wrong.
No, I think by far-fetched,
I mean, reliable.
I think sometimes he tries to make a story where there isn't one.
Yeah.
There was one article in particular that I read that was, I remember getting halfway through and just thinking, this is just
a witch hunt.
I just don't care about this. This is not something that I feel like is a big issue, and you seem to have all this evidence, but at the end of the day, is this really that? It was. I think one of the good examples was the like NDA with the League of Legends mods on the subreddit.
Oh yeah.
About how they're in Riot's pocket, and it's like, well, them signing an NDA is not really that big of a deal. That just means that they gave them they could have given them just the tip of the iceberg of proprietary information about server updates that they don't want leaked, and it just gives Riot the power play to say, oh, you leaked this? All right, we're done with you. You know, it just gives them the legal power to do something if somebody screws them. But that doesn't mean that they're actually sharing really intense information. You know,
but what I was saying is, like, he's never been wrong about the information.
Right.
But sometimes the interpretation or
Yes,
evaluation
exactly.
is like
I would agree.
a little bit more.
Yeah, he's not, you know, he's definitely a reputable source. That's why I like him. He often does find really interesting stories, and he's broken some really interesting stories. But sometimes I read stuff like that, and I'm like this
the
is
majors.
Just, yeah, you know, that was well. I guess it wasn't him. Remember when On Gamers?
Wasn't it him?
No, that was a preface to my next thought.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was thinking out loud. I was thinking about when On Gamers was just getting going, and they found the It was when Riot wanted to add that clause where players of LCS couldn't stream other games because players were getting paid to stream other games during the long queues, and Riot didn't like that, and then it got leaked, and that was the whole thing. I don't think that was that Richard Lewis? I actually don't remember.
I think it was. I'm not sure. I think it was that guy who he was like training, kind of his
brainchild. Okay, I see. But yeah, I like Richard Lewis. I like that he is at least willing to go there and do something different. And I just don't understand why he argues with people on Twitter. That is the one thing he does that I don't get.
But he's got the best response. Like, they get mad and he just retweets everything they say. And
That's true.
It's not. He's not telling them to. Well, sometimes he does tell them that they're idiots. But for the most part, it's just like, okay, you're saying something to me. You're being dumb. I'm going to show all my followers how dumb you are.
Yeah.
And let them decide.
That is an okay way to handle it. It's just sometimes I've read threads where he's just going back and forth with people for hours. And I'm like, dude, don't you just have better things to do? Like, shouldn't you be working on your neck? Like, is this really fun for you? Like, I don't know. It just
Maybe he's waiting on an email and he's like, I haven't got that yet.
It's true. It just seems like as a third-party observer, it just seems like a peculiar... It's like you know that what you're posting is polarizing. You know that a lot of people are going to react to it in a negative way just based on the fact that it's like a breaking story. So fuck them. Like, why are you going to argue with all these people that you know are going to be mad anyway? That's kind of the point of journalism.
And some of the people he argues with are like people who like, it's definitely a troll account. It's got like 5 followers and like a default picture, and he's arguing with this guy.
Yeah, that was it a couple months ago. Esex was baiting somebody really hard. It might have been Toby, now that I'm thinking about it. And there was like 2 or 3 exchanges where I think the person couldn't tell that Esex was joking. I can't remember the specific context now, so it makes the story sound really lame. But it's a similar thing where it's like, you see Esports Express, you should probably know they're not being serious. They're just trying to bait you into saying something stupid so they can post it on their website.
The best thing
ever should be abundantly clear.
Was when, you know, the FIFA scandal?
Which
FIFA.
One? Oh, the FIFA, yeah, sure.
Jack Warner on his personal website quoted a newspaper article, and it was The Onion.
I saw that. That was unbelievable. Like, reading that, I thought was an Onion article. Like, to me, that's like an Onion-like article. And I was just like, how can you not know about this?
Again, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's been a couple of times in South Africa where, like, politicians and stuff have quoted, like, obvious satire sites.
I guess they just don't know. To be fair, I have fallen for a few shitty satire sites where it's like, The Onion is well known, and it's very tasteful, I think. The way they do it, they find that line of, it's just believable enough that it's funny, but you know very quickly that this is clearly fake. But they have some clickbait sites that are out there that are just like
10 things you didn't know about Richard Lewis.
Yeah, or in other words, I thought the most recent one I saw that just scarred me was the Boston Marathon bomber, whatever the guy's name was. It was an article about how one of the guards like beat the fuck out of him and like just pummeled him, and the guy was like a vegetable in a coma. And the article was about how the officer that did it didn't get punished because the argument was that the guy was just such a monster and such a murderer that he wasn't even punished. The judge let him off, and I was like, that is actually unbelievable. And I got worked up about it for like 5 minutes of just like, no, that's fucked up. I don't care how bad you are. Justice is justice. And then I linked it to somebody. I was like, I can't believe there's no way this is real.
And they were like, idiot.
And within 2 seconds, somebody's just like, dude, that is not real at all. That's a satire site. I'm like, where does it say that? And it's just, the argument that those shitty sites make is, well, if you're stupid enough to not cross-reference stories to see if they're real, then you deserve to be trolled. It's like, well, obviously I figured it out pretty quick, but it's not funny. It's like, yeah, you tricked me, but woohoo! I was not remotely suspicious at all. Of like, I just don't get it. I guess it's just clickbait for ads or whatever. But
I hate those
the whole thing's so
articles.
Fucking stupid.
It's so annoying that like even in the esports scene, like people are putting clickbaity like articles.
Yeah. It's I got burned by that at Starladder Bucharest, where I made a comment. I was quoting something that Gerg said in a podcast, which is sort of do that.
You did.
If
you brought it about yourself.
I know exactly, but it was talking about how stability in the NA scene, and Gerg's point was that there are a lot of people there that don't really care about playing Dota for the rest of their lives. They just think that they might be good enough to place high enough to get some fuck you money. This is enough money that I can go to college now. $100,000, whatever it is, and. The quote they pulled out, the title of the video was, Zyori says players are in TI for the fuck you money. I'm just like, that is... North American players was the key preface there. Like, there's just... And that's not... First of all, I'm quoting someone else. So you're taking a quote out of context that I'm re-quoting. The whole thing was just, for fuck's sake. And I tweeted at them to change it. And they tweeted back just like, oh, sorry. I was like, if you're really sorry, then fucking change it so we can just move on with our lives.
And didn't they change it?
They eventually changed it, but somebody posted it on Reddit, and of course all the Reddit comments were people that didn't even watch the fucking video, they just read the title. So I'm pretty sure that's not how it works, Zyori. I'm like, I know that, guys. Come on, give me a little more credit than that, for fuck's sake. But I think it's still not that prevalent yet, but I'm sure it'll get worse as esports continues to grow. That's just
like journalism in esports is like a very developing thing.
Yeah, the tricky part is that the industry is still so small that you can't. It's so easy to get blacklisted, and it's hard to ride that line of like, hey, I'm doing journal. Like once people know that you want to post stories, they just stop talking to you. It's very much an inner circle, and it's scary to break stories. You really have to just be in that like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not here to make friends, dude. I'm here to break stories, and most people are kind of here to make friends. It's tricky. Real journalism will come in one day, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be scary, like, even when, like, the traditional sports commentators, when they, like, move across to esports in, whatever, 10 years' time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Toby will be 40 and he'll be, like, he'll be having to fend off these, like, NFL casters coming in to join the Dota 3.
Could you imagine? The Dota 3. That's what they'll call it, too. Hey, guys, we're coming at you live with the Dota 3. We're going to see some video gaming.
Here we are at TI5.
So we've got some really serious video gamers.
Yeah, and they really are practicing a lot these days. These kids are incredible.
It is really fun to be here and be able to just walk around with the lanyard and have people, okay, what are you here for? It's like, yeah, we're just a casual $17 million tournament. What are you doing today? It's kind of cool to be able to see that shock value in people's faces.
And it's like so many people condensed into like such a small area. It's like, I went up to the room earlier to put my bag down. Casually took the lift with Lanham. I was, hello.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's the best part. I love that I'm also at a point now where I used to go to events and think, I need to meet everybody. Everyone that I can introduce myself to is a new contact. Now it's like I've been around the players enough, I can just be like, hey, John, what's up? Wave and just walk away and just feel good about everything. He knows me. I know him. We know we're buddies. Yeah, high five. Go do your thing.
Yeah, last night at some stage, Vilat just comes up to me. He's like, Knoxville, and he just gives me like a hug. Didn't really remember it very much, but yeah, I remember that.
Vilat's great.
Pretty hilarious.
Yeah, everybody's so nice. That's the thing. Like there's this really great community of insiders that are all just kind of looking out for each other's interest, and it's cool that we can still have this competitive landscape, but with studios and everyone's kind of fighting over contracts and. It's kind of a popularity contest.
And coaches are still friends.
Yeah, but end of the day, everybody's friends. All the managers are pretty friendly with each other. The only reason people don't talk to each other is cultural or language barriers.
Yeah.
The Chinese group tends to speak amongst themselves because not that many of them speak English and no one else speaks Chinese.
The Russians also kind of, but they sometimes speak to the English.
Yeah, they intermingle. Most of them speak at least some English, but they definitely they stay in there. So it's very language-based, the circles. But other than that, people are all very, very eager to not share their secrets, but hang out and get a beer.
Just share their stats.
Yeah, share that. Well, now everybody can share the stats and just sit there. Have you ever seen The Office?
Yeah, the UK or the US?
The US.
No.
I
watched some of it.
Okay, there's the deposition episode when it's later on when they use a piece of evidence where Jan brings in Michael's journal. And this is new evidence, and they make photocopies of everything, and they take a break for lunch, and at lunch everyone's just sitting there reading his journal, the photocopies, and I had like a moment of seeing everyone just like eating, just sitting there feeding the stats Bible, just like...
I saw that today, all the Chinese teams had it on their...
It's like no one's talking, the scene is like no one's talking to each other, and Michael walks in and he's just like, for fuck's sake, and I could just see you walking in with your tray of food, just like, for fuck's sake, that was just for the casters, guys, come on.
I mean, I don't, like, that kind of happened... yesterday a bit.
Yeah.
But when I woke up this morning, I saw it on Grassy Gamers. I just tweeted out 3 pitchforks. Just pitchfork.
That's good. Yeah. It was one of those. I saw so much misinformation on Twitter. I saw so many people saying, well, maybe Valve shouldn't have made it in the first place. And,
Valve, who are Valve to make a stat stock?
The whole thing was just, it's one of those areas where I feel like it's not my place to comment on, that's for you or Bruno or whoever else is more involved in stats to really have a statement or whatever, But the only thing that I said was just like, dude, it wasn't published by Valve. Like, it was sort of because they hired a stats guy that made it, but this wasn't like a Valve like created document with all these secrets. It was just...
It's like public data.
Yeah, it's public data that was essentially created by our stats-based community members that are, you know, into contributing in that way. So I just said it wasn't made by Valve, and you know, I got a lot of tweets like, "Oh, well, where's the official source?" I'm like, "I'm not. I don't want to be an official source, please." Like, I was after I tweeted that, I was nervous for like 5 minutes, just like, is this gonna be on Reddit of just like
Zyori is the new Valve spokesperson?
Yeah, stats by, and then of course Hotbit tweeted at me like, "Zyori leaked to EG, confirmed." I'm just like, fucking, god damn it, E6.
Hotbit. I can't wait for the E6 article about it.
Oh, I'm sure that will be a good one. I'm sure.
Hotbit's just got to get 10 minutes and some drugs and.
So to go full circle, the whole Statsgate thing is pretty settled now. It's all sorted. Everybody has a copy of it. And...
It's being translated into Chinese.
Oh, that's good. That's what's important. That's poor translators. My God, that was not in the job description when they signed up. I'm sure. Yeah. Translate the 60-page stat Bible.
Well, the biggest problem is that like just loading it in Google Docs uses like 4 gigs of RAM.
Yep.
And it takes like 5 minutes to load.
It's massive. As soon as I got the PDF version on my offline tablet, I was so happy. It's just an iBook for me now. But yeah, the online
45.5 megs of just stats.
Yep. That's there you go, man. It made that flight just cruise by, man. Although I have to say, after you read it for about an hour and a half, you start to gloss over it a little bit. Like I feel like I can only absorb so many stats before I just get burned out of, okay, 90% pick rate, Queen of Pain. 80%.
I think the best is to just like pick one block and then just look at that block for all 16 teams.
Oh, okay. I was doing it more.
Teams, sorry.
The way I did it was I had it open and then I have my own notes where I write down the player's name, write down just my own little stuff, and then I would just sort of try to come up with sound bites for each team. I'm just like do it team based and kind of look at standout stats. Just like, okay, they have an exceptionally low percentage of gold that goes with the 5, or just look for the comparative differences. So I take it team by team, but that's actually probably a good approach to do it and focus on like the stat and then break the teams down.
Some of them are also like only interesting as a comparison.
That's true.
Like some of them you really care about comparing.
Well, and I guess since I've looked at so many of your stats Bibles, I have a little bit of when I look at like a team breakdown of percentage, I have at least a benchmark in my head of like, I kind of remember where it was 3 months ago when you made the last stat Bible. So I remember the first one though being a little overwhelmed with the numbers. I'm like, well, this is cool, but I don't really have a frame of reference for.
But the idea is that like you can print it and you can just take a highlighter and choose the points that you want. And make
I've never actually printed out.
You always tablet it.
I always tablet it. Maybe that's my bottleneck.
Tablet, notebook, and
because that's what I do. I like to. I twiddle the pen. I've got to. See, for me, I remember best if I write it down. So I do the like outlining myself. So I take yours and then I make my own notes based off of it. So I like to keep it there if somebody brings up a specific question and I need to reference like that number or that stat. But in general, I'm referencing my own notes or looking off my own stuff. So that's why I have like the multi-device setup. Yeah. Plus, it's the more stuff on the desk, the more official you are. It's like you got to wave your dick around a little bit.
I've got laptop.
Yeah. Just like, look at all these idiots over there. They just have tablets. I've got a tablet and a red journal. So obviously, I'm taking way more notes. I'm trying way more hard. My God. So, Knoxville, you are a fucking champ. We did an hour-and-a-half podcast. Most people bow out after 45 minutes. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. We haven't had the busiest schedule in these days leading up, but that's
we had a pretty busy schedule last night.
We did. That party was awesome. That was a lot of fun. I am sad I didn't introduce myself to Gabe, though. I'm still a little too shy.
We were sitting with his son.
That's crazy.
And Cinderin didn't realize it until his son left. He's like, cheers, guys. And Ted's like, Cinderin, you didn't realize it, but that's Gabe's son. And Cinderin's like, get out of here.
He's like, I made an ass of myself per usual, so everything went according to plan. That's how I feel. Valve employees are stealthy because they don't wear uniforms or anything. And they're all very casual and nice.
You know the guys downstairs who have staff on? Are those Valve, almost all Valve guys?
I actually have no idea. I don't think so because Valve they hired production people, they've hired some hospitality people. So you have no idea who's who. I'm like, you're official. You can tell me what to do with. I don't know if you're a Valve person. I don't know if you're a programmer. I don't know if you're just like an events person. You could just be hotel staff that's dedicated to our event. I really have no idea.
We haven't seen Phenol yet, have we?
I have not seen Phenol yet. No, I haven't. I don't know that many Valvers. Eric Johnson, I know. I've met in passing last TI. Arsenio, I know he's pretty distinctive.
He's the guy who was the secret shop guy.
Yeah, he's the secret shop guy. And that's kind of. I met Andrew.
Andrew L.
I don't even know his. I know his face and I know his name is Andrew. I don't know his last name.
The production guy.
Yeah, I think. He's helping us with production stuff, and I haven't been introduced to him yet. One of them came up to me, me and Draskell, and we were done testing. He's like, "Hey, how'd the booth look? Is everything good?" I'm like, by context clues, you seem way too into the details of the booth to be a fan or someone else. So I'm assuming you're a production person or a Valve employee, but I had no idea who he was or what his name was. So I just smile and nod and try to pretend like I know what's going on. You know, it's my first TI. They just throw you in. There's no like, okay, these are the key people. You know, well, this is Andrew. This is You just show up and
we know Bruno.
Yeah, you know. Bruno, of course. Yeah, I know Bruno, and he's my when in doubt. Like, Bruno, what was his name again? Because I'm pretty friendly with Bruno, so I feel comfortable asking him. You know, fill in the gaps. But my God, well, any closing thoughts? Do you have shout outs?
Shout out to Scant, Nahaz,
Gansor,
and all the other standard deviants.
Standard deviants. That's a good name.
That is a good name.
Because it's like deviation, deviants. Are you guys deviants? Do you guys
We're devious as...
Yeah. Is that what, so that's what you're doing. Do you guys have like your own stats Bible with the real stats, the sinister stats?
Yeah, we've got more stats Bibles. Stats Quran, stats Torah. Got them all lined up.
You got to go the full spread. That's good. Well, I appreciate it, man. Guys, follow him on Twitter. He needs more Twitter followers. What is it? Just Knoxville DOTA?
Knoxville ZA.
Knoxville ZA. What is the ZA?
South Africa is the main code. SA is Saudi Arabia. ZA is South Africa.
Oh, I didn't know that. I always wondered what the ZA was. I thought it might be a country.
I would have at Knoxville, but...
I'm sure that's taken.
There's a middle-aged Australian woman whose only tweet was, I don't get this Twitter thing. I don't think I'm going to use it very much. I'm trying to add her on Facebook.
Well, you could be Knoxville DOTA.
No,
you don't want to limit yourself to Dota. That's so uncool.
I'm a multi-dimensional guy.
That's like having a number in your email. What a
yeah.
I'm Andrew Campbell with some numbers.
Are you?
It's terrible.
Oh my God.
I was too slow to get Andrew Campbell.
I've got a sufficiently complicated surname. That's
good. Andrew Campbell's a pretty... I've actually
like
met another Andrew Campbell in person. So if that's happened, there's got to be a fuckload of them.
Millions of them.
Yeah, it's bad. You Google it. There's doctors, lawyers. Fuck them all. Okay, well, that's good. That's all we've got, guys. That's podcast 77. There will be plenty more Zyori podcasts to come. I want to do at least 2 more here. I wanted to knock one out before we even get started in the group stage, and this whole StatsGate bullshit prompted a pretty good opportunity to sit down and talk about some cool stuff. So, I don't know when the next one will be. I don't know who it'll be. You have to keep your ear to the drum. They'll be uploaded to YouTube, and then we're going to be getting a lot of content during the main event. So, production value, I got to reach over and turn us off here. So, we'll see you guys next time. #TI5.